I think we're live, folks. Welcome to the voice of college football, Missouri Tigers Live. Might recognize a new background for those of you who watched me when I did Alabama. I'm back at my mom's house. My washer's my dryer's having some issues. So my mom was like, "Hey, why don't you come over and do some laundry? I got a couple of those I need to do, and I just have to fix the belt. So hopefully that won't take too much time. But yeah, we're back at the white wall. All my posters and stuff are taken down. So unfortunately, but we'll make do for today. As you are here for Missouri Tigers Live, I am Zach Remelius here for episode 42 of Missouri Tigers Live. We're going to talk a little UMass. We're going to talk about expectations for the Tigers as we head towards the second half of the season. What are your expectations? We're going to recalibrate some things. We'll get into a little bit of the bye week along with that. And then, of course, SEC notes, national notes, and then we'll get out of here. This is my week off, so you guys will not see me until next Monday for Missouri Tigers Live. But you can follow all things Voice of College Football at Mark Rogers at the Voice of College Football. We have channels covering basically every team you could imagine that there are fans of, and even some that there are no fans of. I started here at Voice of College Football 5 years ago. I did Alabama. If you go to the Alabama channel, you can find some old videos when I was much fatter and much worse at talking and kind of expressing my points. You can also Voice of College Football shop.com or voiceofcollegefootball.com/shop. I'm posted the link in the comments. We have polos, we have jackets, we have anything you could want while you watch college football on your beautiful Saturday. Fortunately, here in the Midwest, it's still getting kind of toasty. Hopefully that changes soon as we hit into October. I mean, I'm looking at my phone right now. Got it next to me with a couple of my show notes. And right now it is 80 degrees. It's supposed to. We're at a low high of 88 through Sunday. So, woohoo for us. But that's not what you guys are interested in here. Listen here, talk about college football, specifically the Missouri Tigers, who, of course, did move to 5-0 on Saturday with an evening win over the UMass Minutemen, 42-6. I think I talked about a lot what I wanted to talk about with that game. Bo throws another ugly interception. That's 3 in 3 weeks now. And he had a bad turnover against Kansas. So that's 4 turnovers now in 4 weeks for Bo. He needs to clean it up. He's been way better than I thought he would be this season. I don't think anybody, when he came over, everyone pointed to 1/2 against Wisconsin for him being able to throw the football. We didn't know for sure, though. But through 5 games, he's 110 for 145 at 75% completion percentage, 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, 3 picks. Hasn't really run the ball all that much compared to where I think we all thought he might. Comparatively speaking, he was negative 27 rushing yards against UMass, but he did run for 72 against USC and only 65 against Central Arkansas. Other than that, 6 yards, 5 yards. Not something Mizzou has had him do a lot recently. Now, in conference play, in the one game, he did go 16-27 for 59% completion, 171, 1 touchdown. Against Kansas, he was magnificent. 30 of 39, 334, and 3 touchdowns. So he's been very good. Now, he's going to need to step it up and slow his roll on the turnovers as we head into SEC conference play, man. Like, the non-cons are over. We knocked out the South Carolina game, and now you've got 7 SEC games staring you in the face. Bo, I probably could have gone into bye week, but whatever. I just said I was gotten better about recalibrating my points. Hardy, 24 for 130. He looked like he was a little dinged up at the beginning of the game, but he was excellent as always. Added 3 rushing touchdowns into the mix. Marquise Davis, 9 carries for 77 yards. Like, we saw a lot of him. Tavoris Jones, I gave 1 star of the game to because he just doesn't get a lot of opportunity, and he played really well. We saw some different guys get receptions. Jude James caught a ball. We saw Donnie catch a ball. But it was mostly, again, Marquise, Brett, and Kevin. Joshua Manning only 1 catch for 10 yards. We'll get more into like the wide receivers and kind of what we want to recalibrate expectations. Defensively, the Tigers were fine. The run defense remains incredible, but the pass defense remains a lot to be desired. So when it comes to UMass, I think I talk about everything I wanted to talk about. Look, we expect perfection from these teams in these games now. Especially when you're a team like Mizzou and you are competing for a playoff spot, or you want to compete for a playoff spot. Now, all in all, like, they're not going to knock you out because of how you looked against UMass, but there are signs and there are little things in that game where you have to be a little concerned. So that's why I'm going to get into the concerns as we talk about how we're going to recalibrate expectations as we head into the second half of the season. The season started 29 days ago and we're heading into week 6. So the main thing I want to talk about is the pass defense. So Mizzou is 12th in pass defense, and 3 of those games shouldn't count. Like, Central Arkansas could not throw the ball. UMass couldn't throw the ball. Like, AJ Hairston threw the ball a little bit. Like, he wasn't awful at throwing the football. He was 11 for 31 for 75 yards. Like, but he was a little crisper than I think either Louisiana quarterback or the Central Arkansas quarterback. But Kansas and South Carolina lit this defense up. Against the 2 Power 4 teams, this is coming from PowerMizzou.com, 62% completion rate, 525 yards. That is 260, like 2.5 per game. 9.1 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, which came against Kansas. At the end of the game when Kansas was just trying to, it was 40, when Kansas was to end the game against Kansas. So it wasn't like a key interception. And a 157.42 quarterback rating. All those stats right now, if you just against Power 5 teams, which isn't fair because a lot of other teams have not played, like Notre Dame's schedule where they've played what? 4 Power 4 teams and only really Purdue and 2 of them are top 10 teams. Purdue's kind of dog do, and Arkansas is below that. We'll talk about Arkansas here in a second. But that would rank 123rd in the country out of 136, right behind Kent State. And there's been some flubs on those teams. Sellers and Jalen Daniels missed some throws. So when we recalibrate expectations, guys, in 2 weeks, Alabama comes to town. I don't know if you watched what they did to Georgia. They can throw the football. Ty Simpson's playing some really good football. And they have 3 wide receivers that are excellent. So you have to clean this up. Bama still struggles to contain the run. So there's an opportunity there to kind of sit on it and, have a possession of like 33, 34 minutes. But through 2 games, when teams have needed explosive pass plays, they've been able to get it against this defense. And that's really concerning as you head into Oklahoma, who lives and dies on big material making plays. You head into Arkansas, who can make big plays. Mississippi State has a very good passing game. Pavia is going to make things happen. Marcel Reed, I'm still not really sold on Marcel Reed, but Ty Simpson and Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard and Horton and their group of wide receivers, it's an excellent trio. And if you can't slow them down, I don't care how well you run the football. If you can't prevent explosives against Bama, great. You scored 24 points because you can run it, but you also gave up 40. So we'll see. I think in the first half last year, we'll talk more about the Bama game next week. I don't want to get too much into it, but I thought that the Corey Batoon defense did a really good job. The dam kind of just broke. Drew Pine wasn't able to move the football, which isn't that surprising. But I just think defensively they have to take another step in that back end. But what are your expectations now for the Missouri Tigers? Before the season, my expectations, I think were reasonable. I think it was 8-4. I thought you'd win all 5 of the games you've won so far. So they have not, there are things about this team that have impressed me. I did not think Ahmad Hardy would be this good. I did not think he'd be leading the country in rushing by 100 yards through week 5. And I know Mizzou hasn't had a bye week. I did not think Bo would look as good as he did throwing the football, especially against Kansas. Even South Carolina, he had moments. I didn't think Marquise had what he's had in him this year. he looks like he's more than just a speed threat. And Kevin Coleman's come in and been as advertised. Like, he's been awesome. So, I thought they'd win these first 5. And now you have Bama, you have at Auburn, you have at Vandy, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, at Oklahoma, at Arkansas. Mississippi State is better than I thought they'd be. Way better. Like, that's a competitive football team. They beat Arizona State. They took Tennessee to the brink at home. That might be a bowl team. We'll talk about Mississippi State more later. But you get them at home, you cannot lose that game. Arkansas, at this point, again, September 29th, you cannot lose that game. That's a team that looks like it's quit kind of on their season. They let go of the rope against to steal one of the writers, Trey Biddy's phrase, because I was listening to him talk about this. Bobby Petrino is going to step in there. We'll see what happens. But at this point, you shouldn't lose that game. So that gets you to 7 wins. That leaves 5 games left. Alabama, at Auburn, at Vandy, Texas A&M, at Oklahoma. If Mizzou goes 3-2 in those football games, it does not matter which 3. Although I think I would prefer, like, you win Bama, Vandy. I think winning A&M would be good because it's like an end of the season type thing. So like losing to Bama, losing at OU, like whatever, it doesn't matter. But if you win 3 of 5 with how the schedule shakes out, like, oh, Mizzou, such an easy schedule. Well, remaining, they got a top 10 Alabama team, a top 20 Vanderbilt team, a top 10 Texas A&M team, a top 5 Oklahoma team. Win 5, you're going to the playoff. You might be like a 10 seed. You might be starting off on the road, but you're going to go to the playoff, which for this program would be nothing short of a miracle. Or not a miracle, that's the wrong word. Nothing short of remarkable for this team. Just making the playoff. You cannot. Now, 2 and 3, I still think you have is a pretty good season. I still think you do a lot of really nice things. And you still build momentum, although with how the team looks this year, that might be looking like a little bit of a lost opportunity. 1-4 is a disaster. 0-5, you're 7-5. So I think my new recalibrated expectations is 9 wins. If I had to guess, I think they lose to Alabama. I think they beat Auburn. I think they beat Vandy. They lose to A&M and Oklahoma. And I know how good Vanderbilt is. Look, I understand completely. I just think Mizzou has a talent level of 1 step above Vandy, and we'll see where Vandy's at that point in the season. They'll have played. Let's look at Vandy's schedule. I think that. Come on, I think they and Mizzou's not favored according to ESPN FPI, but that's okay. Vandy has Bama, LSU, and then Mizzou. I think it's Bama bye week, LSU, and then Mizzou. So, but there's second week on the road, yada yada yada. But like you have to win a few, like 3 of these games to make the playoff. And if you do, you might get a home game, probably not. Now 4-1 might win you the freaking SEC or get you to the SEC championship game. You go undefeated. Obviously, if you go undefeated, you're the 1 seed in the playoff. Maybe you might be behind Ohio State or Oregon, but you're getting a bye. So I don't want to get over my skis. I don't think that's going to happen, but it is on the table. You have 7 games left. I'd qualify 5 as very difficult. 1 as interesting, and that's Mississippi State. We'll see there. And 1 is in, I can't really quantify it yet because I don't know how these teams are going to look. I don't know how Arkansas is going to look come that week. So recalibrating, I think I'd improve it by 1 win. I think I'd set my expectation at 9 wins, which puts you on the periphery. And it's still too early to be like, could 9 wins get you in? I would say probably not with this schedule, but you never know. That's when you got to start like rooting for certain teams and you got to start looking around like like if you're a Mizzou fan, you need to be rooting against Notre Dame. You need to be rooting against like USC, which is good loss for them. You need to be rooting against some SEC teams like LSU. You need to be probably rooting against. And of course, none of it matters if Mizzou doesn't win football games. So the Bama game's kind of the litmus test for that. We'll talk about that more next week because I don't want to, destroy every bit of content I have on an episode before bye week, which I am going to enjoy. But it is a bye week. It is time to get guys healthy. I know coaches never say like there's no perfect time for a bye week. Every bye week's a perfect time. But like after the 5-game run you just had, where you played 2 Power 4 teams, you had 3 snoozers, 2 Power 4 teams that were both fun football games. This is kind of a perfect time. You can kind of sit back, recalibrate, and see, like I just talked about, and see what you need to improve on. And obviously, pass defense is number one. The other thing I would like to talk about is adding, like, so Mizzou's clearly has a big 3 at receiver this year, and it's Marquise Johnson, Kevin Coleman, Brett Norfleet. That's your big 3. That's fine. You can have a big 3. You need a 4th guy to emerge as competent, not put up 1,000 yards, but be like a 300, kind of like a Mookie Cooper. Like he could put up 300 yards. Someone needs to emerge and it's going to probably be Josh Manning. I like Josh Manning. I think he's a pretty good player. I don't watch the All 22. I don't have access to that. So I don't know if maybe he's just not getting open. He's not like getting the looks. I don't know. I'm not a all 22 film watcher all the time, but like, look, if you look at receiving, Kevin Coleman way out in front, 39 catches for 386 yards. I'd like to see that yards per reception go up, but then Marquise Johnson, 18 catches for 275, Norfleet 20 for 174. He's also got 4 touchdowns, which, hey man, like Brett might be playing himself into an all SEC, but Josh Manning only 12 catches for 127. So he's on pace for about 300 yards. Kevin Coleman's on pace for about 750. Marquise Johnson's on pace for, actually closer to 800 for Kevin Coleman. Marquise Johnson on pace for about maybe 650, 600, depending on how he does in the Bama game. Norfleet, 400, 500. It's a well-rounded receiving core, but I still want to see someone take the next step. I want to see someone become a number 1. You need a number 1 against the elite teams. And it looks like it's going to be Kevin Coleman. Kevin did not have a great game against UMass, but like they looked lethargic as hell. So I don't really blame him on that one. Get Ahmad Hardy some rest. Look, it's a weird dichotomy because right now, through 5 weeks, I think you have to put Hardy into the Heisman conversation. I think you have to put him in there. I don't think he's the favorite. I don't even think he'll even make it to New York unless Mizzou goes like 11-1. But you have to pick now, do you want to push Hardy for Heisman, which you can, and you can give him the ball 25, 28 times a game. He'll get 150 yards, hypothetically. And it's also going to depend on stages. Like, what does Hardy do again at 11 a.m. on ABC against Alabama? Can he go for like 180 and 2 touchdowns? Whatever. But you have to give Jamal Roberts carries. You can't wear Ahmad Hardy out. And Jamal Roberts, 48 carries for 350 yards. He's averaging more yards per attempt than Hardy is. He's also a better receiver. And even Marquise Davis, 34 carries for 200 yards. Like, that's pretty 6 yards a carry. Now, he's done it mostly in second halves against UMass, Central Arkansas, and Louisiana. But, hey, like, he looks pretty solid. He's going to be exciting to watch in the near future. He just looks big and physical, like an SEC running back. I love it. So does Santana Banner, by the way. That dude's jacked. Holy cow. But get these guys healthy, get the pass defense up, and I think Mizzou's going to be in a really good spot. They've played better than I thought in a lot of aspects. Like, again, I didn't think Bo would be this good throwing the football. He was kind of shaky against South Carolina, so it's something to keep an eye on. I didn't think Hardy would look this good. Get Caden Green healthy. I think the offensive line's pretty solid. I don't think it's great. Curtis Piegler at guard, I'm still a little Cole Kublik over at the SEC Network talked about how it looked like Javen Richardson really struggled. I take his word for it. Cole's really, really smart. I don't know. Like, so what's the weak point going to be? Is it going to be left tackle? Is it going to be guard? I don't know. We'll see what they do with Caden Green when he comes back out. They'll need him for Bama. So basically have 3 full weeks to recover from whatever injury he had. And if he doesn't play, then Mizzou's going to be just that much further behind the 8 ball. But they got 2 weeks of practices to get ready for it. Meanwhile, Bama's got a tough game against Vanderbilt. So When it comes to the Missouri Tigers, I think you have to recalibrate what you think this team can be. I think this can be a playoff team. I did not think that before the year. I thought if things broke their way, they could get into the conversation. But I think that firmly this is a team that can make the college football playoff. I wouldn't predict it. I still think 9 wins is kind of your ceiling. But I think this team has played at a level well enough to show that they can make the playoff, which would be huge. And it'd be super fun. It'd just be fun to cheer for a playoff team and fun to do one of these after a playoff game, that would really help out the channel. So since I'm talking about like and subscribe, guys, come on. If you're here, just hit that subscribe button. It helps me out, helps the channel out, helps Mizzou fans out. There's a lot of great Mizzou content out there. There really is. No free publicity here. But there's a lot of good Mizzou podcasts there. I'd love someday for myself to put myself, or, if we get a co-host or whoever, into that space. But it starts with you guys spreading the word, talking about it. I need to do a better job of marketing. I understand that. I just live a busy life right now. Marketing, spreading the word, talking, like and subscribe, guys. Like, we're here. I'm a nerd. We just talk college football. We just talk Mizzou. Watch every game, break down every little thing, get irrationally angry at some things. All right, challenge to my viewers. If Mizzou does it and beats Alabama, and I say anything remotely negative, or I come off as remotely negative, it might be still the secondary needs to clean some things up, but you beat Alabama. Oh my God. Someone smack me because, oh my God. But like and subscribe, guys. We're here to talk about Mizzou. I think there's more of these things I want to talk about next week, but we'll get to next week because I do not have a show this Saturday. Mizzou is on a bye. So let's get a little bit into the SEC. Obviously, the big news out of the SEC non-game edition is Arkansas fires Sam Pittman. Not a surprise. I think a lot of Arkansas fans thought he was going to get fired after 2023 when they went 4-8 and Mizzou went in there and look, that was an awesome Mizzou team, but they went in there and won 48 to. It wasn't close. It was 41-0 at some point. I know Arkansas media for some reason thinks they're above Mizzou football, which I don't understand. They've been pretty garbage for 30 years. So, whatever. That's a really tough job, man. They brought in Arkansas in its heyday. Even in the mid-2000s with Houston Nutt, they had Darren McFadden. If you got to find a guy like that, awesome. But you've brought in 4 programs now into the SEC that are better than you. Mizzou's a better football program than Arkansas. It just is. Over the last 20 years, Mizzou has just proven that they're a better football program. Arkansas has 2 10-win seasons. I could be wrong. Let me look at 2006 Arkansas. Probably quicker if I just do it on my phone. 2006 Arkansas. Okay, they won 10 games that year. I apologize. So 3 10-win seasons now in 20 years. Mizzou, they're gunning for what? 07, 08, 10, 13, 14, 23, 24. They're gunning for number 8 in the same time frame. And if you just want to, and I'll stay 20 years to give Arkansas that third one, because for Mizzou, that 2007 season was 18 years ago. God, I'm old. So it's not there's just not a good football program. It's behind financially to most of its peers. They don't even come close to Mizzou in spending. We'll see what they want to do. I know, I read a lot of Arkansas stuff. Rhett Lashley's a name that comes up. He'd be an excellent hire. John Summerall would be an excellent hire. I think John should probably hold off for something better. But hey, man, do what you got to do. There are other names I see floated around that I'm that'd be a pretty good hire. If they hired Rhett Lashley, I'd be a little worried because Rhett's a good coach, despite what SMU may be this year. And this might be a good time for him to leave. SMU is going to lose a lot coming up this year. But I don't think, if you're a Mizzou fan, obviously they're not going to come get Eli. That's a joke. I know. I saw some people. The job to be worried about with Eli is Florida, to be quite honest. But yeah, I mean, that was coming. They obviously fired Travis Williams. He was a good coach too. The crazy thing is, any podcast you listen to about Arkansas, they all knew that defense was going to be a disaster, and it is. But still, interim head coach Bobby Petrino, he's going to get an audition. If they hire Bobby Petrino, that would be such an Arkansas thing. because that's an awful hire. But moving around to the rest of the conference, obviously we talked about it a little bit Saturday. People freaked out over that Florida State game for Alabama. Guys, Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois at home and still made the playoff. Still made the Natty with the 12-team playoff. Obviously, does Bama's margin for error shrink quite a bit? Yes, because they still have to play OU. They still have to play LSU. They still have to play Mizzou. They still have to play other teams. Vandy, for God's sakes. You cannot no matter how bad it looks, you can't. And Florida State's pretty good. I know they lost to Virginia. I don't think Virginia's that bad. But no matter how bad it looks, you cannot overreact to one data point. You just can't. Unless it's a horrific one. Like Mizzou, Texas A&M, where like they just didn't even look like they belonged on the same field. Like that, sure, whatever. Or Illinois, Indiana, where Illinois didn't look like they belonged in the same field as the Hoosiers. That one you can overreact to. The thing with Alabama, and I've said this for a while, and I used to do Alabama postgame. I watch Alabama games. I mean, they're on all the time. Ty Simpson was making the right reads. He was just throwing it a beat late. And every game since, he's been right on time. Now, the second half, they slowed down, and they really struggled against Georgia, which isn't that surprising. It's freaking Georgia on the road. They didn't score it all in the second half. But Ty Simpson, 24 of 38, 276, and 2 touchdowns. You have to. Their run game is not impressive in the slightest. Georgia was able to run the ball on them pretty well. They ran for like 230 something. You have to slow that Bama pass game down. If you do, and I'm not saying shut it down, but you have to slow it down, and you have to be able to keep the football and slowly matriculate yourself down the field. If you can do that, then you're going to be in a really, really, really good spot. Elsewhere in the we'll break down Bama next week. Elsewhere in the SEC, Texas A&M gets a win over Auburn. Jackson Arnold is he's just not it, man. He's just not an SEC caliber QB. Marcel Reed, I wasn't really impressed with either. So we'll see what they do with those two, how those two do moving forward, because they both are on Mizzou's schedule. Auburn has a bye week before they play Georgia. Tennessee, look, I was worried about Tennessee. I'm not worried for Tennessee, but I was like, oh, Tennessee could lose that game. Mississippi State at home is a tough place to play, especially when, hey, they're 4-0. Like, there's a lot of momentum around that program, and they might make a bowl. Like, they get Arkansas, they get Auburn, they still play at Mizzou, which I think they'll view as a winnable game, and I don't blame them for that. Good on them. Vandy kills Utah State. Vandy's interesting because they're in a different spot than Mizzou is right now. Whereas I think people understand like Mizzou's a good team and Mizzou kind of like wins will take care of themselves. Vandy's kind of in Indiana mode where like last year to get any respect, Indiana had to kill teams. And they did. And Vandy's in that same spot where like we have to kill these teams. And they are. They're obliterating teams. Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love, what a game from him. South Carolina got back on track against Kentucky. Nothing really to talk about there. LSU, Ole Miss. Lane started the wrong quarterback, man. Like, that's so crazy to me. Like, Lane just started the wrong quarterback. Austin Simmons is not very good. Trinidad Chambliss, 23-39, 314. Quan Lacey, look, man, he left. I understand he left, but Eli knows running backs. He just knows running backs. I mean, the last year's running back room was the worst one, and I think everybody was excited. Everyone was surprised how bad last year's run game was with Noel and Marcus Carroll. So, hey, man, Quan Lacey, good on you. 23 carries, 87 yards. Trinidad throws for 314. Hey, shout out St. Louis. Against a really good defense. LSU's offense sucks. I'm not quite sure why LSU is ranked as high as they are. Like, Clemson sucks. Florida sucks. So they have a win over those two teams. Louisiana Tech and like Southeastern Louisiana. I don't know about that one, Chief. In the SEC, like, we'll learn about LSU. We'll find out, not this week. They have a bye, but and not a great SEC slate like Kentucky, Georgia, Texas, Florida. In the swamp, it's going to be interesting. I mean, Texas is only a 6.5. Vandy, Alabama, that's fun. Kent State, OU will win by 100, and then Mississippi State, Texas A&M. is keep an eye on it, but probably not. Not a great slate this weekend, which is okay. But yeah, SEC continues to be awesome at week in, week out, and this week might be a little bit of a difference. But national notes, look, Florida State, like that field storm was scary, but what a moment for Virginia football. Before the season, the talk about Virginia was like, hey, look, if Tony Elliott can't make something happen with this guy, and by make something happen, we meant like 7 wins. That NC State game is a non-con loss. If Chandler Morris just doesn't throw a pick in the end zone, like they're undefeated, probably in the top 20 with a very manageable. So now they have to go to Louisville this week, and that'll be interesting. But I just, man, like what a moment for that football program. Like who hates Virginia? I mean, Virginia Tech, sure, but like who hates Virginia football? TCU, like Arizona State, like they just fight, man. Like Kenny Dillingham's got those boys fighting, and they come back from 17 down to beat TCU. And Jordan Tyson's like wider. He's not Jeremiah Smith. He's not Ryan Williams, and he's probably not like. But man, he's got to be like that wide receiver. He might be the wide receiver 2 in college right now. Like he's so good. In my personal top 25, I still have Ohio State. I don't know how many of you watched that game. There are a lot of SEC things going on. I'm lucky enough where I can watch a lot of games on a lot of different screens. They just choked the life out of Washington on the road, which is difficult to do. Sand still doesn't look comfortable throwing the ball downfield, but he makes enough throws underneath, and Ohio State just kind of can choke teams out. Like they're just going to do what they do. Oregon, like James Franklin can't be an elite team. Oregon, the interesting thing with Oregon, when they came to the Big Ten, everyone was like, "Oh, they're soft." They, because when they left the Big 12, Pac-12, DeBoer kind of owned Lanning, and Oregon's put a lot of emphasis and a lot of their money towards their offensive and defensive lines, and it showed Saturday night. Like that's a program that it's hard to say like Oregon's on the rise, but like they're on the rise still. Like they're just now bringing in multiple elite offensive linemen, defensive linemen. And Dante Moore's pretty good. Man, imagine this team had Evan Stewart. Like, oh my God, but DeCorey Moore's amazing. And they got DeCorey Moore for another 2 years. So you just kind of have to sit back and be amazed by what Dan Lanning has built up there. Indiana escapes Iowa. Look, I know everyone's first inclination is to kind of poo-poo Indiana, but how many times have we seen a team go into Kinnick a week after a big win, especially when you're not like Ohio State talented, and struggle? Indiana did. They still got a win on the road. Iowa State murders Arizona. Mizzou, by the way, I wanted to bring this up because I remember a tweet about this. Mizzou, best like differential between success rate between teams. So Wake Forest, Georgia Tech escapes Wake Forest. Mizzou should probably be ahead of Wake Forest or Georgia Tech at this point. I don't think that's a huge comp thing to Mizzou, but like Georgia Tech, just who have they played? Who have they beaten? Wake by a point, Clemson by 3, like Syracuse. Like I like Georgia Tech. I like Brent Pry, but yeah, big win for Illinois over USC. It's a USC team. Like if you play Ohio State like Illinois does, I think that'll take care of itself. USC, Mizzou fans, you probably need to root against. And they have some tough games. They have Oregon, they have Michigan. And then BYU escapes Wisconsin. That's kind of what happened in the top 25. Nothing like it was just a crazy week of college football. Like this week is the why we love this sport, man. Like there was some huge games, most of them delivered. The 2 night games absolutely delivered. You have to be super excited about that. And we'll head into a slower week, and then week 7, Mizzou picks back up, and we got another crazy slate. So. Next week's kind of a down week, but like, look, next time you hear me talk about Mizzou football, you have Georgia, Auburn, South Carolina, LSU, Ohio State at Illinois, Alabama, Mizzou, Indiana, Oregon, Oklahoma, Texas, NC State, CJ Bailey, who looks pretty decent, goes to Notre Dame, Michigan at USC, like Arizona State at Utah. Like, you're just going to get crazy slates. I hate these super conferences. I really do. I hate the playoff, but I won't deny it leads to some great weekends. So I think that's going to wrap it up for me today. I got some stuff still I got to do, but guys, hey, we asked for Mizzou to be 5-0 going into this Bama game. It's like 2 years ago. They were 5-0 going into the game against LSU. You got an SEC, you got a big time SEC program coming to your town for an 11 a.m. kick, and not an unbeatable SEC team. Like, there are weaknesses in this Bama team you can exploit, especially their run defense. We'll see what happens. We'll talk more about it next week. It'll be nice to have another data point on Alabama against a really good Vanderbilt team that also has a running quarterback. So we'll see how that goes. We'll talk about that on Monday. Like and subscribe, guys. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Voice of College Football, Missouri Tigers. We'll be back next week for episode 43. And you all enjoy your week. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy another slate of college football. Usually the weekends that don't have a lot are some of the stupider weekends. So like something like a couple weeks ago, it felt like something stupid was going to happen. This is another weekend where it feels like something stupid, like nothing, like Penn State isn't going to lose to UCLA, but like Texas at Florida, keep an eye there. Texas Tech goes to Houston, Miami, Florida State, like something stupid's going to happen, and it's going to impact the way we view things going into week 7. So you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much. And MIZ.